Alright, so I mentioned in the last video that when the players arrived in Portland, they heard that there was some sort of problem in Portland having to do with werewolves.
I don't know, you had him last.
You can't say that. You're gonna get in trouble. That's a really stupid joke, and I'm gonna tell Mike.
I don't care. What's Mike gonna do anyway?
There you go.
But don't worry about it. It's not going to come up. There aren't going to be any problems with werewolves. Anyway, unrelated to werewolves, the players decide they would like to talk to the Nosferatu. They talk to some various people to try and find out how to get in touch with this Nosferatu group and find out that there is this leader of the Nosferatu called Pig Vomit. Pig Vomit apparently killed one or two of the previous princes. This is what they're told. But the players decide, yeah, the Nosferatu sound like they're probably less dangerous / less of an asshole than a lot of other people. So let's see if we can talk to them. Let's try and talk to the Nosferatu. Let's try and track down Pig Vomit. And eventually they do manage to find this homeless ghoul who works with the Nosferatu, who tells them to go to this place where they meet Pig Vomit, who is this big burly Nosferatu guy with a big ass jaw who talks with a lisp. He's sitting in there playing his Nintendo, and they come in and start chatting with him. This guy tells them that he did not kill any princes. He has been maligned. He's actually a nice dude, and he'd be willing to be friends with them. And they're interested in being friends with the Nosferatu, not only because they would like to be friends with somebody, but also because the Nosferatu control the very central part of the city, which is right next to the part where the players are. They're neighbors, and they would rather not go to war with them. The way that the players are kind of set up is the players are right here, and it's on the other side of this river are the northern Camarilla who want to kill them. On the other side of that river are the Bruja, who apparently want to kill them. On the other side of that river are the Sabbat. That way they're the Sabbat, and that way are werewolves. So the only place that there might not be someone who wants to kill them is directly next to them, which are the Nosferatu. So let's try and be friends. Let's try to be friends with the Nosferatu. There's a member of his pack, brood, whatever you want to call it, who got kidnapped. This guy named Wiggles. Wiggles the Nosferatu. The players got very excited because there had also been a Nosferatu in the previous game called Wiggles, Captain Wiggles, who had apparently been dead, and then one of the players randomly just threw out a random Malkavian prophecy that no, Captain Wiggles is actually alive, based on nothing. And then it turned out that Captain Wiggles was alive, and they were super amped up about this, and they were sure that this was a reference to Captain Wiggles. It was not. I had just forgotten that I had already used the name Wiggles. But in any case, Pig Vomit tells them he's willing to consider joining up with them, being friends, maybe even coming back to the Camarilla if they can go find Wiggles. And he says Wiggles was kidnapped, he thinks, by the Tremere, and he tells them that there is this house out in the middle of no place. He gives them a rough location where the Tremere were doing some weird magic shit, and that this is where he has been told by his spies that Wiggles is being held. They are told that originally, before the Tremere were there, this house belonged to the Giovanni. There was this Giovanni faction in the city. They all died. And then the Tremere moved into this house, and then shortly after that, these Tremere got wiped out. And the players are very suspicious of this. There's a spooky house in the middle of nowhere where two different groups of vampires have been annihilated. So they don't love the idea of going, and they decide we should try and find out what we can about this. And the only thing they can think of is, are there any Giovanni left or any Tremere left who we can talk to who knew what was going on? And there is one Giovanni named Walter Bell, who is a, what do you call it? Mortician? No. Medical examiner. Like Quincy. And so they go to talk to Walter Bell. Now, one of the players, Gideon, is a Giovanni, disavowed. And so they go over to talk to him, and Gideon is quite excited to speak with Walter Bell, who is not very excited to speak with them. Walter is Cowardly is one way of putting it. You could also just say that he takes one look at the players and is like, I recognize this. You guys are player characters. I would like to have nothing to do with what you're doing because I would like to not die. Despite his great desire not to be involved, the players are desperate to get Walter Bell involved in all of their business, mostly because Gideon just really wants another Giovanni to talk to, also because he is a medical examiner and also can talk to ghosts. And so because Gideon is one of the weird Giovanni who doesn't really have any necromancy skills, they constantly want to go to him to talk to ghosts.
Would you date me? Because I think I love you. Why do you look away? Why don't you smile for me?
It turned out this ghost was no demon. She was an angel.
He was kicked out of Vegas years back when Margot took over Vegas. So Margot is the child of Enzo, the Ventrue from the previous game, the player character Ventrue from the previous game, who got killed by Giovanni. And Walter says that when Margot took over Vegas, she banished all Giovanni from the city, so he just fled. Then he was in LA for a while, where he was at a party and he bumped into a statue and knocked it over. The statue had been sculpted by Nathan, another player character, who is now the Prince of Los Angeles. And apparently Nathan just like stared at him for a minute and then walked away. And Walter Bell was so freaked out that he just decided, I guess I've been banished from Los Angeles, and fled as well. So like everyone else who's been thrown out of every other vampire city and can't really be part of society anymore, he came to Portland.
Yeah. Oh, this is the latest one we just got. Best official website for cities with populations under 700,000 in the Pacific Northwest area.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
on that.
thanks. Well, I had this one made, and I presented it to myself.
About the only thing Walter Bell can really tell him about this house is it's called the Glass House. It was built by the Giovanni, apparently, some time ago, long before he showed up in the city. He's never been there, he says. He knows that they used to do a bunch of Giovanni shit out there, and that the Tremere only really were using it for a couple of weeks, as far as he knows. But that, as far as he's heard, the reason that the Giovanni got killed there was because they did something to piss off the werewolves.
An American werewolf in traffic.
And the werewolves control that area. And he recommends that they do not go there under any circumstances. But the players really want to go there. So they've heard that the old prince, the mayor, who's now retired, years and years ago used to have an alliance with the werewolves. So they go to track down the mayor, who is this old guy in like a little hat and a little Hawaiian shirt who kind of putters around. He's out of the game at this point and just hangs about the city, feeding ducks and going to movies and, whatever he wants to do. He can do whatever he wants. He used to be Prince. So they eventually arrange a meeting with him. And he's friendly and willing to chat with them. And they try to gather general information on what's been going on, but he doesn't have a lot of new stuff to tell them. They are also mainly trying to find out how do they talk to the werewolves. And his advice to them is, well, A, the werewolves are very reasonable. B, all the werewolves I ever talked to are long dead. C, just act like you own the place. And also probably don't go out there. So anyway, they go out there. They find this big spooky mansion. Has a symbol on the door that they don't know what it means. And Stas looks at the symbol and he rolls lore and he's like, oh, I know this symbol. This is the symbol of the Shadow Lords. They're a werewolf tribe. They're very scary. They're like the smart, sneaky werewolves. We should avoid this place. And the others like, okay, Shadow Lords, got it. Let's go into the house. They go into the house, and what they discover is that the Glass House is not called the Glass House because it was built by someone named Glass. It's called the Glass House because the entire interior of the house is glass. The outside is made of wood and steel, but the interior is made of panes of glass. So standing in the entry hall, you can mostly see everything in the house. You can see through the walls to the other rooms. You can see through the floor above you to the upstairs and the rooms up there. You can see through the floor below you down into the basement. And they see that there's this big sweeping staircase. There are a bunch of rooms upstairs. There are libraries on the side. And then at the bottom, there's what looks like, I don't know, some sort of giant fusion reactor and or super mutant breeding tank from Fallout in the middle of the basement. So, probably not great. They also hear a lot of weird sounds going on, laughing, balls rolling about, people running back and forth, little footsteps, but there are no people. And in addition to all the walls and floor being glass, lots of them are covered in tons of writing, which is all just endless strings of like mathematical formula. Like, if you go to if you watch a movie about going to college and they show you the scene where they're in college and they just see like the whiteboard with 10,000 maths on it, it's like all the maths, but they're written all over the walls. Some people will probably recognize what I'm describing as the house from 13 Ghosts, because this is the house from 13 Ghosts.
The only thing worse than being trapped in a house with a ghost is being trapped in a house with 13 ghosts.
And all of the horrible things in 13 Ghosts are in this house, except for Matthew Lillard.
Okay, really? Why'd the cops let him go, smart guy?
And the players decide, let's not go into the basement where there's obviously something spooky down there. Let's go explore upstairs first. And they go room to room and they find all these bedrooms, 12 of them. And the 12 bedrooms are each like themed to the ghost that is trapped in that room. So there's a whole bunch of ghosts in 13 Ghosts. Off the top of my head, I cannot remember all of them or their exact names, but there's like Ghost in a Letterman jacket, Naked Ghost, Ghost who's just a guy wrapped up in saran wrap, Big Baby Ghost and his little mama, and others. They encounter all these ghosts. They go through their rooms. They find little like descriptions of them and accoutrements, like, baseball kid ghost has like baseball stuff. Letterman ghost, I assume, has like a football. Naked Ghost has, I don't know, whatever a naked ghost would have. The saran wrap ghost, lots of saran wrap. And these ghosts like manifest and chase them around trying to spooky them. They can't really do anything because they're ghosts. So the most they can do is just like, ooh, ooh, ooh. The players eventually, they read all these math formulas and they read through books they find in here, and they find a diary of the guy who ran this place, whose name is something Greek sounding, I think. And they determined that the purpose of this house, it was assembled by this Giovanni ghost guy years ago. The purpose of this house is to summon the 13th ghost by connecting all of the souls of these 12 specific ghosts who like fill these 12 specific categories of, I don't know, the zodiac symbols or something. If you really want to know, you can go read the Wikipedia article on 13 Ghosts. They figure out that there's some ritual going on, vaguely evil, to summon this 13th ghost, who is, I guess, super powerful. And apparently it failed because the guy who was doing this is dead. Almost as if what he was doing was wrong. Horribly wrong. And there was some group of characters, some powerful entities within the world of darkness whose job it was to stop people doing wrong things. And they showed up and killed everyone in this house. Twice. But anyway, the players go down and try and activate the thing at the center of the house,
I thought it would be funny!
The thing in the middle of the house is this giant cage, like a Faraday cage thing, that's supposed to summon the 13th ghost. I don't remember. I think the players didn't quite figure this out. As I recall, I'm not going to go look up my notes. It was a long time ago. As I recall, this guy, Christos, had tried to summon the 13th ghost into himself, and it didn't work. Then the werewolves wiped him out. Then the Tremere showed up, and the Tremere were like, yeah, we should do the same thing. And they kidnapped Wiggles and stuck him in there because they're like, a vampire body would be stronger, so it would survive. And then the werewolf showed up and killed all of them. So the vampire, Wiggles, is still in there. They staked him, stuck him in the claws. They're like, we're going to summon a ghost into you. We're immediately killed by werewolves. The werewolves didn't even realize there was another vampire there and just left. And he's just been sitting in there for like a month, unable to escape. But the players pull him out. They're like, holy shit. They find this big, gross-looking Nosferatu who has like 3 different heads. and he's staked, and they pull him out, and they're like, wow, I'm assuming this is Wiggles. He doesn't have a name tag or anything, but like, hopefully this is the guy. And then as they say that, the werewolves show up.
You gonna help me up or what?
Basically, the players just run. They didn't make any attempt to fight the werewolves, which was for the best. There were like 2 or 3 of these werewolves that popped in, I think. And it's incredibly unlikely the players could have won a fight against them. Werewolves are pretty nasty. So the glass house, they just like, we're done with that. They leave, and we don't want to come back. And they drag Wiggles all the way back to the city. And they set up another meeting with Pig Vomit, and they deliver him Wiggles. And Pig Vomit unstakes Wiggles, and he wakes up, and he starts talking, and it is discovered that this guy is actually Pig Vomit. The person that they've been talking to, his real name was Big Back, I believe. He is another Nosferatu, but he's not the real Pig Vomit. The real Pig Vomit is the 3-headed pig monster guy. His 3 heads look like pigs, who was trapped down there this whole time. And the other Nosferatu had, wisely not really advertised the fact that their leader was missing, and were desperately trying to get him back. But the Nosferatu didn't really want to go up to the murder house, so they sent the players, because they don't care about them. Pig Vomit, the way that he talks is he has like one head that talks normally, right? He has another head that is just like doing this like Gregorian chant, moaning constantly, like which just never stops. It never stops. And then a third head that is just like constantly screaming like a freaked out baby pig. It was like, hello, thank you so much for rescuing me. I am forever in your debt. And that's what it's like to talk to Pig Vomit. But despite that, they did manage to save him, and they do manage to make friends with him. And from that point on, they do sort of have this Nosferatu faction as their allies. The Nosferatu faction, incidentally, were based on the Ninja Turtles.
Ninjutsu!
Right? Pig Vomit is Leonardo, the leader, the smart one, right? And then the other 2 that they don't have as much interaction with, but they do meet them here and there, are, I think his name was Skeletor, I think is what he called himself, who is Raphael, who looks like a giant skeleton man who just likes to kill people. And then Donatello, whose name I believe was Screamy, who is a little tiny Nosferatu who kind of talked like, who am I thinking of?
1,000,000 years dungeon!
You have to call them on this number that goes to a payphone, and then you ask for a type of pizza, and based on what pizza you order, that's who you get to talk to. Like if you ask for the meat tornado, that is Skeletor, whereas pepperoni, that's Big Mac.
You had me at Meat Tornado.
And their ghoul, who is this homeless woman, is named April. Don't know if the players ever figured out that these were the Ninja Turtles. But anyway, they were the Ninja Turtles. They're like the Ninja Turtles, but... Well, I was going to say but terrifying, but actually, the original Ninja Turtles movie is terrifying. Like, I've rarely seen a movie that is more existentially horrifying than staring into those masks. So let's say, like the Ninja Turtles, but with more screaming.
Unacceptable!
So yeah, that is the story of the Glass House. And some people might think, hearing the story, there's a giant house made of glass covered in magical formulas with like a ghost in it out in the middle of the woods with werewolves protecting it. It seems like there would be more to that story and it would come up again. Don't worry. It doesn't.
How is he?
Bad. How bad? Bad, bad.
Bad, 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 or just bad, bad, bad?